Centipede Smith in The Visitor. I think the muskrat made her this way, Centipede the sadomasochist told his friend Carl, anarchaically. She isn't remotely the same, plus the muskrat hasn't been seen or heard from since the night they both went into my room. Maybe she ate him, I don't know. All I know is that my own bedroom is full of delirium every night, full of stifling silence that almost sounds like muffled whispering. Have you considered going to your local priest? Carl said. It helps, Centipede, it really does. And if your mother is possessed, brother, it's probably by Satan and not a muskrat. It's the muskrat, I tell you, Centipede growled. I can feel it. I mean, it's weird, because I didn't even like my mother before she changed, but she wasn't a liar. She never lied. Now, every tooth in her disturbingly smooth and sparkling face is a falsehood. I don't know what to tell you, Centipede, Carl said. It sounds insane. By the way, where's the picture? I don't know, Centipede said, looking down at the empty hole. Maybe it disintegrated. It was in a plastic bag, though, Carl huffed. I think you just don't want to share. Why should I? Screamed Centipede. She's my... He stopped. She's what? Carl said. Oh, my sweet merciful lord. You weren't going to say girlfriend, were you? That's sickening, Centipede. Centipede punched Carl in the mouth. Carl fell down. Carl got up and left. Fuck you, Centipede. Shape up or fuck yourself. Don't let Big Daddy God hear you talking like that. Centipede was getting exasperated. Centipede sat in his room. He was very uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do. He turned his pillow sideways and held it like a body. Maria, he whispered through the silence. What should I do? Centipede looked at the picture again. It was getting boring, though. He wished he had another picture of the same woman, or at least another nude Mexican. Anne Smith had been gone all day. Centipede didn't know where she was, but he saw an opportunity. He went to the cookie jar and fished out what he thought were testicles. He came up with a pair of eyes. No testicles in sight. He had thought if he were to put the muskrat's testicles back at the entrance of its burrow or something, that it might just leave Centipede and his family alone. But the pale blue eyes in Centipede's clammy, vinegar-covered palm looked up at him with a familiar cadence that drove the aforementioned plan into the ground and out of young Centipede's twisted, sideways mind. Centipede put the eyes back into the cookie jar before going back to his room and sitting quietly on the bed for the rest of the day. Centipede decided to get ready for bed. He washed his smelly hands and brushed his smelly teeth. He got into his pajamas and pulled back his covers. Someone opened his bedroom door, and he looked up to see a rotting corpse looking back at him. Centipede screamed, but only a stuttering, rasping gasp plumed forth from his gaping mouth. The corpse continued to watch him, and Centipede stood there in his room, trembling. After a couple minutes, the corpse pointed to the bed, its eye sockets dripping pus all the while. Centipede realized it wanted him to get in the bed. Centipede, ever shaking, pulled back the covers once more and crawled in under the sheets. He pulled them up to his chin and he laid his timid head on the lumpy pillow. The corpse backed away through the doorway and shut the door behind itself. Centipede, lying engulfed in the smoggy silence of his room, heard someone walking up and down outside his door in the hallway. The walking continued for hours, at least Centipede guessed, as he had no clock in his bedroom. Centipede heard voices, some of them close and wet, and some of them far away and tinny, like a TV blaring from down the basement stairs. Dad! He called. Dad! The walking outside stopped. Someone had seemingly stopped right outside his door. Centipede jumped up and ran across the room to his little window that opened out onto the backyard. He could see plywood and the empty porn hole and the giant oak by the garage. He had kept the window locked for muskrat-related reasons, so he had to unlatch both sides of the frame. As he fumbled with the first, the doorknob turned. As he tore at the second, the corpse was back in the room, rushing silently towards him, its soft gray hands outstretched. Centipede took a second he didn't have to look at the figure rushing toward him, and he yelped and pushed against the window, squirming halfway through the little opening before the corpse laid hands on his back, digging inhuman claws through his flannels into his young skin. It tugged Centipede back into the room as Centipede screamed for help. It threw Centipede on the bed and jumped on top of him. It pushed its claws into his tender face, and Centipede screamed as loud as he had ever screamed in his short life. The corpse wrapped its other claws around Centipede's neck, choking and cutting him. Outside, the moon was low and full, and the stars were bright little things. The nighttime alleyway glimmered, and the moonlight shined in through every black window. It was much easier to see in this place without any sunlight. If anyone had been outside that night, they might have even made out the animal burrows, black against dirty yellow sand. Most of the people in the neighborhood had vowed to call the exterminator, or at the very least resented the potholes they had never stopped to examine. The end.